because I've been explaining to you how Zionism is the biggest threat to the rights of Americans, because Israel is tanking in the polls after the October 7th attack. They are isolated on the global stage. So you have Israel that is fucking getting decimated on public relations front. So because of that, you have people who had to crack down on free speech. They had to create psyops about anti-Semitism because they are panicking because they're losing the control of the conversation, because people are realizing that there are organizations called APAC who infiltrated our elections and infiltrated our democracy. A lot of people realizing that the United States has a hostile foreign power that is actively interfering in our elections. You know what they said about Russia and China? You know how they said Russia and China is interfering in our elections? So George Santos, he's out. Because George Santos, he committed the great sin, CJ. He told a lie. He told a few lies. And you know we don't tolerate lies in Washington, D.C. Oh, they're so adorable, aren't they? People really believe that. That's the stated reason. We don't allow liars in Washington.
Sweet anyway, summer children.
Children believe this shit. Children believe this. So they got rid of George Santos. And now they have a special election. And you want to know who the GOP candidate is? The GOP candidate is an Israeli citizen and an IDF veteran who declares her first priority in Congress will be to represent Israeli interest. She also blames Biden for October 7th. So, an Israeli military veteran, here's a few headlines. An Israeli military veteran tapped that GOP candidate in special election to replace George Santos. Here's another one. Some won't like seeing a former Israeli soldier running for Congress, but I know the vast majority will be with me. So we have a GOP candidate that is straight up advocating, and she is admitting that her number one priority will be to advocate for another country. Meanwhile, liberals are talking about Russiagate. They talking about China. You know, China is the country they're accusing of now. Apparently, Cuba is interested in our election too. Missing Iran. A lot of people interested in our elections. Like, this is the new PSYOP, CJ. China, you know it's the date. Like, this is what they're running now. So they had all this time to figure this out, but they just now figuring this out, CJ, right before our election. Isn't that funny? How these headlines, this is last election. This is 2022, CJ, but they just now report on this right in time for the next election. Isn't that funny? China, Russia, Iran, Cuba. Isn't it interesting? All the countries that the United States just so happen to hate, they all try to meddle in the 2022 election. All the countries that hate us, they are extremely invested in what happens to our day-to-day midterm elections. So, CJ, according to this fucking intelligence assessment, they're not even meddling during the presidential election, which makes no sense, because it at least makes sense to meddle in the presidential election because that's the executive who controls foreign policy. No, they're not even going that far. They say these people care about like house races and shit. They care about ordinary races. So this is what they want liberals to think. This is how they get liberals on the neocon train. I explained many times before. They got different strategies. You know what I mean? When you want to get the right wingers on board, oh, the scary Chinamen are coming. China is coming. Oh my God, be afraid of China. You can't have non-white people on top. And then like, nigga, let's go to war with China. To get liberals on board, you say, oh my God, Russia is invading the sovereignty of our elections. China, hey, it's liberals. You know China's meddling in our election. And also you got the liberals saying they want to go to war with China too. You got to see how they do different things to get people on board on war.
Yeah.
And now they got the new woke imperialism. Isn't that funny? What is it? You know how LGBTQ or whatever, people are mistreated in Palestine, even though gay marriage is not legal in Israel. But they would say, oh, look at how Palestine treat gay people, so we're allowed to bomb their hospital and children. That's another strategy. They learned they got to get the liberals, the neocons, and they also got to get the woke imperialists as well. These are the Bernie Sanders, right? The progressives. So So as they're running this pretend headline, pretending that we have fucking all these other countries that are trying to invade our democracy, you actually have APAC that's pledging $100 million to influence the elections next year. We have people who are literally Israeli citizens, literally IDF soldiers, that are claiming they're going to represent Israel running. So before I pass to you guys, I know you guys think right now, Nick, you being dramatic. Yeah, we know Israel's trying to take over our democracy right now, but it's a democracy, right? So Nick, why are you complaining? If you don't like her, why not just vote for the Democrat? If you don't want the pro-Israel candidate, surely there's going to be a Democrat in the race to give people options just in case they don't want a candidate loyal to Israel, right? Oh, God damn it. Meet Tom Soazy. The opposition to the pro-Israel candidate. The GOP House candidate, Mazie Pillow, who's the right-wing choice. And the funny thing is, you know about her, they chose her for a reason because she's not a relevant legislator. And all the articles, they would mention she was a small-time legislator. You know why they chose her? Because remember how George Santos lied about being Jewish, being part of the IDF and all that stuff? George Santos lied about his close Israeli ties. So then they found a brown person who actually is a Zionist. So isn't it funny how the GOP and the Republicans claim they don't like identity politics, but they are the first people to play it? Because CJ, you know what the messaging they have right now? Because I got a hotspot video coming out on this. I digged into this. This is very funny to me. So now they're doing this thing as, we got a woman of color who actually cares about Israel in our election. So isn't it funny how the right wing claims they don't like identity politics, but they always love to use it when it applies to them, like Tim Scott. But anyway, back to Tom Soazy. Look at this headline. Tom Soazy, I looked into, he gave an interview last Friday, CJ, where he said he would never condition aid to Israel. So let's think about this. In New York, you got a choice between an IDF soldier who pledged loyalty to Israel or a Democrat who swears loyalty to Israel. Isn't our democracy nice? And the last headline I read, because that's pretty much the end of this story and presentation, and I get you guys in here. Look at this headline, which is, this isn't Politico, but it could be an Onion. This is an Onion headline as far as I'm concerned, CJ and Rome. Support for Israel at the heart of crucial New York election. Do you guys see what's wrong here? In a New York election, the number one issue about to be Israel. An election about the state of the people of New York, you got two candidates that are about to out-Israel each other. It's so bad, CJ. APAC put out a statement where they said they are not going to endorse in this race. So you know how pro-Israel you have to be as a Democrat for the APAC lobby not to endorse a former IDF fucking soldier? So both Republican Mazie Melissa Phillip and Democrat Tom Soazy are staunch supporters of Israel. This is the United States of Israel, fam. Now, this is the last part, and this pretty much be presentation and takes, and we wrap it. Now, this is our democracy in a nutshell. And the funny thing is, political writes this, and they don't realize they're writing political parody. They don't realize they're writing Onion level shit. Do you guys care about the constituents in New York? No, for Israel. Look at this. There's not an inch of daylight between Soazy and Phillip on this issue, on support for Israel, they say. That's what Lawrence Levy said. But the Democratic Party is seeing younger voters at odds with Israel. A spokesperson for APAC told Politico in a statement, both candidates have reflected the overwhelming bipartisan support for Israel's fight to remove Hamas in Gaza. So both candidates are pro-genocide. APAC did not respond to question whether it spend money or endorsing a special election. Our money, and this is part we're talking about here. This is the last part I read. This is the Republican Party sounding like woke liberals, which is why I don't generally buy the right-wing talking point on this issue, because the right, they position themselves as the anti-woke party. I'm like, no, you're not. The Republican Party is white identity politics. I've been saying this since the start of RBN. When people say RBN, you talk about race too much. I know Republicans talk about race too much. They talk about anti-white racism all the time. That's their number one concern. Like people like Tucker Carlson, they talk about almost they don't like race, but they talk about anti-white racism. That's the big. They love that. That's a big issue for them. Now, Republican Party is saying our party is going to nominate an immigrant, a woman of color, a woman who's deeply religious. That's another identity politics point that Republicans use. How is this any different from wokeism, fam? That been put by Republicans? Because they also say she's deeply religious, and this is a general argument I use. And I pass to you guys because people say, "Well, Democrats only want to use identity." Do they? Do they though? How many Republicans run on the concept of how much they love Jesus, how much they are evangelical Christian? Oh man, I got my Bible, I got my gun, and I'm gonna go out and shoot. That's a form of identity politics. That's them signaling versus signaling. Hey, I'm a Christian. I'm a white Christian, and you should support me because of that. And what do white Christians do? They support the white Christian because he's a white Christian. How is that different from liberal identity politics? And that way you get on the right. That's my only presentation of the day, CJ Roome. Any
yeah. I'll let Roome go and then I'll say my comments because I have a receipt with my comment. But go ahead.
I don't even know what the fuck to say. Nick already bodied it. I'm like,
I had a lot to say about this. So
yeah, because he probably did a lot of research. So then I'll give my
I usually like to do the hotspot videos are like 2 minutes or less. I like to do the hotspot and now do like a longer version because I couldn't even explain there was a lot I couldn't even explain in that video. This story beyond parody. But go ahead, CJ, I'll pass to you.
Yeah, because we have Zionists against Zionists. Now, to be frank, this has already been happening. Zionists against Zionists. This dynamic in all of the races has been happening. But now, with the temperature as it is, what's going on with the Israel-Palestine conflict, takes a lot of heightened sort of sensibility. So now we have these people who are being very radically Zionists to prove to Israel that we are the future candidate that you can buy in the United States, right? Now, what's going to come along with that? And I got this from Nick. I think this is Nick tweet. Yeah. What's going to come along with radically Zionist candidates moving to being elected in the United States? Don't you think that's going to come with censorship like it's not already here? Now, let's listen to this video. It's short. It's less than a minute, where it's a report about the censorship paid for by Zionists, the same Zionists that's paying for candidates that we're talking about in New York State. Let's listen.
Human Rights Watch says Meta has silenced posts in support of Palestine on Instagram and Facebook. It says the suppression is systemic and global, amounting to what seems to be the largest wave of censorship of content about Palestine to date. The rights group reviewed 1,050 cases of online censorship from more than 60 countries. They were largely in English. Nearly all of them featured peaceful content in support of Palestine. The organization says that in more than 300 cases, users were unable to appeal Meta's removal of content or accounts effectively. It's identified 6 patterns of censorship: content removal, suspension or permanent disabling of accounts, and restrictions on liking, commenting, sharing, or reposting. It's also found restrictions on tagging or following other accounts, limited use of certain Meta features, and shadow banning users. That means a significant drop in the visibility of their posts, stories, and accounts.
Now, ask yourself, why would Meta, Facebook, do this? Who are they getting instructions from to do this? The Zionists. Now, to wrap it up, and we can bring this this segment to a close, why this matters with the New York State and their Zionists versus Zionists is that we must recognize the heightened situation we're in right now. The Zionists have decided that, wow, we didn't realize there were so many people against us in the world. Now it's time to use our money and press the levers of influence that we have all around the world. So they're going to be electing very pro-Zionist candidates because of people like the Squad, who are very milquetoast. That's what makes me so mad. It's not like they're getting people who are already not supporting them. The Squad already supports them, but they want somebody in their language also supporting them. And that means censorship is coming. Censorship is here, actually, really. We've already been talking about it.
I was about to bring that up because they had on TikTok, man, they are messing these kids' pages up. They took down like 900 something pages, and they are really trying to censor these people from sharing knowledge. And this is a recipe for disaster, because if anything, all you're gonna do is get people outside and start talking to each other. Because if I can't talk to you, on the internet, somebody gonna hear this. Somebody needs to hear this. And these kids not having that. This generation isn't like how we was, like how the older millennials was, or like Generation X. They are loud and they want to live in a world without war. They want to live in a world without having to take resources from another country, without trade unfairly. We got to do this just. And I believe that the kids is gonna they're gonna beat this censorship, because they miscalculate. They miscalculate in who the hell we are and how much passion we have in this, how much we don't want to see this, and how much we want it to stop overall. So they can try, but the people always prevail. That's why I know that for sure, because they already tried that shit multiple times with different groups of people.
Yeah, and I'm just, what's the best way to put it? I guess I'm glad I'm vindicated in the way I am, I guess. And I'm also glad that the illusion is gone. Because what have I talked about for, I guess, the inception of RBN? Because ever since RBN started, that where the right wing did a free speech gimmick, right? Where they pretend they were for free speech. I was on System Update with Glenn Greenwald, where I explained in many different shows that I don't think the right is for free speech. And what is the example I use all the time? The example I use all the time was Israel. I was on Glenn's show. I remember I was like, yo, the right wing not gun free speech when it comes to Israel. Like, look at Ron DeSantis when he banned BDS. That's what I brought up all the time. And now Glenn is viciously going after these people because he's playing on the show. He's like, yo, I was in solidarity with these people. I thought we agreed on free speech. Fox News had him on. They were talking about free speech. And now he's like, bro, he's disgusted at these people who turn their values on them. But this is exactly what we was warning about. I accurately pointed out from the beginning of my time as a political analyst that Zionism is the biggest threat to our rights as Americans. It's the biggest hostile foreign threat that we deal with. And now one of the reasons why they will give, and this is the only reason I'm bringing this up in response to the TikTok banning and people being censored. That is 100% manufactured by the Zionists, which is, it drives me crazy how brilliantly evil they are. You know what I mean? They are so brilliantly evil. I'm like, God damn, I know exactly how this shit works. And I know why we had a hard time dealing with it. Because they got this organization called the ADLU, who defines what anti-Semitism is, and they won't take no for answer. So they make up these fucking bullshit numbers up. Like one of them, over 2,000 incidents of anti-Semitism reported. And even among their numbers, which I think is low, even among their numbers, they admit about half of those incidents come from rallies that support freeing Palestine. So they said there's 905 rallies, and this is what they include as anti-Semitic incidents. There were 905 rallies, including anti-Semitic rhetoric, expressions of support for terrorism against the state of Israel, meaning self-defense for colonized people. So if you stand for the self-defense of Palestine, they include you as anti-Semitic, which is why this is brilliantly evil. Because imagine if we had a pro-black, intellectually dishonest organization, right? They pro-black, but they're intellectually dishonest. And their statement is they alone are going to decide what's anti-black. And we as a black organization, let's say that organization is called RBN, just for the hell of it. Let's say we got a group called RBN, and we as a group called RBN, we decided that if you don't support reparations, you are now anti-black. What are you saying? Are you saying that we shouldn't get paid our unpaid labor value? Are you saying that the debt that we are owed shouldn't be paid? Are you telling me that the extra interest rates and the redlining that we suffered through that we should just be okay with that? Oh, you don't support us getting our paycheck back? You are anti-black. And then we as an organization come out with statements. Oh, these people who put out a statement against reparation, they're anti-black. So then once we label them anti-black, then TikTok comes around, then Facebook comes around, then Meta comes around and say, oh, we're going to remove every single content creator who don't support reparations. You guys see how crazy that is? That is literally what Zionists have right now in our country. And they still pretend they're the victims. How crazy is it? A minority group that have the power to get congressional hearings just like that. A minority group that is able to get people pulled from Twitter, X, Facebook, Instagram, just because they don't support the political ass of the group. How crazy is that? And that is accepted as normal in our country. Sorry for that mini rant. I'll pass it back to you, CJ. We can get
no, that was needed because I was hoping you had a couple of receipts because you are way much better than me on these receipts, because I wanted to insert that in on your segment about the Zionists versus Zionists, because that's the first like openly, publicly they're doing it that way. And I'm telling you, in another 5 years, that's going to be how all these races are going to be. Like the one that's saying, I'm for, is that they're literally going to be going like, I'm for the genocide of Palestinians. Really? I'm for this. It's going to be genociders against genociders. Okay. That's literally, they're going to be using this sort of rhetoric.
Genocider versus the lesser
right.
genocider.
if we don't stop that now, it's so important that we stop that now. We speak against it right now. It's so important that we understand how that is connected to the censorship too. Censorship is coming, and they're going to be censoring you as by way at the ballot box, by making sure they have a genocidal Zionist that you can. That's the only option you have to vote for. And just one last point. This is why it doesn't make sense to me, Roome and Nick. I don't understand people like the Squad and Jamal Bowman who support Israel, but now they're in the crosshairs of Israel because they don't support them hard enough. So you threw away your credibility with the left and sold out Palestinians, and now just to get in good graces with Israel, and now they're coming after your head. Like, I have no sympathy for you at all. I have none.
Yes, CJ, you know who's guilty of that? Nina Turner. I covered it at a time where you had APAC that was targeting her in her election. And then I'm blanking on the person who she fought. I don't remember the
Chantel Brown.
Chantel Brown, yeah. So Chantel Brown declared loyalty to Israel very early on because she's a standard neoliberal, right? So Nina Turner, in order to prevent a wave of APAC ads against her, she came out against BDS. And I reported on this. She gave an interview. It was like the Jewish Insider, some like pro-Zionist outlet was asking about BDS. She's like, no, technically I don't support it. It could be discriminatory against some Jews. Be like, she pretty much threw BDS activists under the bus under the idea of, oh, if I do this, I will avoid APAC trap. Oh, you dumb sweet summer child. You know what happened? APAC then proceeded to funnel money in her election, despite the fact that she threw BDS under the bus, and then she lost. So the progressives at Palestine, they do this all the time. They always try to appease Israel, and APAC always go after them because they won't take no dissent in our democracy. But go ahead, Roome, CJ. I'll pass you.
Yeah, this is where what I just want to touch on what CJ was saying about the lesser of two genociders. But this is where the lesser two evils get you. You know, it moves the Overton window to the right every time you vote. Every time you get this motherfucker elected, they're going to move to the right. They're going to do something outrageous, and it's going to have you running back like how people are running back to Donald Trump. Never Trumpers running back to Donald Trump right now because of what he's doing. Without education, that Trump is going to do the exact same things. Without the education that, even if, like, think about how dumb Americans are. you have Republicans mad at Biden because he's a better Republican. Like straight up, he getting away with so much shit, and they just call for mass deportation in the middle of a genocide that they are funding. I don't know, y'all Americans, y'all gonna get what y'all deserve. This is what I'm saying. Americans get what they deserve because you guys refuse to fight. You fight half-ass, and then you throw your hands up for a couple of years and say, "Oh well." What the fuck you mean? That's all you got? You ain't gonna, no community activism, no coming together, no keeping these people together that you have brought together to vote for this motherfucker and push on something, you know. But it is what it is. You're gonna get what you deserve, and the only way out of this is fighting the correct way. Get on the ground. Get on the ground. Get outside. Stop talking. Like, it's good to have conversations on the internet. It's good to have, you know, spaces like these, or you know, watch shows like these, but this is still under their control. What happens if we just blink? RBN done. Right? Now we have to go out and like, all right, I know where this nigga CJ live. Let me go back to Nick's house. Now we got to connect on the ground because they took away the only thing that we have to connect with each other, you know, on a daily basis. But we can do this on a daily basis. Get outside.